Carolina State University Bulldogs. Our sponsors are State Farm Insurance, Palmetto Health, Orangeburg County, the United States Coast Guard, the South Carolina Education Lottery, the Regional Medical Center, Advanced Diagnostic Imaging Center, Fats Cafe, Bill Owings Custom Clothing, and Whitash Furnishings. And now here's head coach Buddy Pough and our host Ernest Robinson.
Hello and welcome once again to another edition of the Buddy Pough Show as we talk South Carolina State football with Bulldog head football coach Buddy Pough. Saturday, the Bulldogs ventured north to the Big Ten to take on the Indiana Hoosiers. South Carolina State losing to Indiana 38-21, and coach, you talk about getting close. This was probably the real first opportunity that the Bulldogs had an opportunity to actually win this football game against a Division I ball club on the road.
We did have a chance to win the football game, and we didn't get going quite soon enough on offense. We had a couple 3-and-outs there, and they hit us for some deep balls on our defense, and that's been a little bit of an Achilles heel for us, but you know, we did eventually get going.
We'll take a look at the starters and see how South Carolina State started this thing, and of course made some changes, coach, but the offensive line starting to kind of come together.
We did. Devin Flowers now is in there as one of our starters at offensive guard, and Sam Hammond there. Dwayne Clark played a good bit for us at tight end. Antoine Carr also does there, and then our quarterbacks and running backs are pretty much the same as they've been. Ashton Jordan got banged up a little bit in this game, and we ended up playing Scoot Simmons a good bit there at one of the other running backs. And then we start with our defense. Pat Washington, Ronell, and Malcolm Reed, those guys have all played extremely well and extremely hard. We've gotten a good bit of our young freshman guys in there too, Carter and some of those guys. Our defensive backs start with our linebackers, Courtney Ingram and Donovan, and all those guys there. And then Lataris Douglas and Dominique Ellis is having a tremendous year. And then Darius Drummond has been really good for us. Mason Harris struggled a little bit, but he's having a good year also. And then our specialists, Blake and David Davis, Tristan Bellum is our long snapper, have done a nice job also.
We're going to take a time out here on the Buddy Pough Show. When we come back, we're going to get to Saturday's exciting highlights. South Carolina State taking on Indiana of the Big Ten on this edition of the Buddy Pough Show.
Furnishings for the set of the Buddy Pough Show are provided by Whitash Furnishings. Whitash Furnishings is a proud sponsor of the Buddy Pough Show.
We're back with your State Farm first half highlights, and coach, you could not have dialed up a better fall afternoon for football.
It was a beautiful day, and we start off with a little bit of a sky kicking. That guy put his foot out of bounds and then recovered the football, which actually meant that the ball was out of bounds, and they got the ball on the 40-yard line. That's Courtney Ingram and Darius Drummond making that play on the little bubble screen there. And what they do is if you got too many people in the box, and they throw it outside, and then Dominique Ellis comes off the edge and makes a nice tackle on that little jet sweep kind of action. But, you know, they get a good bit of the conversion kind of throws here. Their quarterback, Wright Baker, you know, threw a nice ball down the middle for a third down conversion, and that was probably as big a problem as we had all day because we couldn't get off the field. And then they hit us for a deep ball here for a touchdown.
They reviewed this play several times before deciding it was a touchdown. As a matter of fact, I think they ruled it incomplete to begin.
They did rule it incomplete, and they overruled it. We've had a hard time with this instant replay deal. Every time we seem to get the plays called against us, we start off there throwing the ball on a little sprint out. Derek throws the ball to Caleb Davis, and then we come back off the edge here to one of our end runs kinds of plays, and Ashton gets a first down for us.
Ashton Jordan turned in the corner. We turn the football back over on downs and get it back to Indiana. Nice play on the edge up there for South Carolina State.
Right, and then what happens here is we end up getting hurt here on another deep ball, and it's almost as if you know, the thing that people are trying to attack us with, and it's almost at the same spot. So we got to really work to get that cleaned up, because if not, then that's going to really be a problem for us.
That was Dwight Wilson on the big catch, the big play in that particular drive. South Carolina State trailing now 14-0, Coach. But you really have to admire your resilience, especially on the road, as you get behind early, but we get right back into the football game.
We do. Scoot Simmons has the ball here on the kickoff return, and on the very first play, they come after us pretty good, and we hit them on a little jailbreak screen, and Tyler McDonald is off to the races.
69 yards, Derek Wiley to Tyler McDonald, longest pass play in Derek Wiley's career, and you see it again from the ground level. And let me tell you, it was so surreal and seemingly so easy. One play, 69-yard drive.
And, you know, it was a situation where we probably needed to have something happen really good for us in a hurry, because they were in the process of really hurting us with the two drives that they'd had.
And really took the crowd out of the game. Probably had close to 40,000 people there, but it got eerily silent as South Carolina State right back in this football game. But a good contingency of Bulldog fans decided to make the trip.
We did have a nice group there and had some buses and those kind of groups of people, as always, at South Carolina State games.
Right, Baker on the carry. You see the defensive line now changes. Coach in that second unit, anchored by Curtis Hill and company. Alex Glover gave you some good minutes on Saturday.
He did, and then, you know, the tough part here is that we still having a tough time getting them stopped, and they end up hitting us for another little ball out here in the flat. You see Joe Thomas and Darius Drummond making the play here, but then they get it back in for another score.
Joe Thomas, a big day for South Carolina State. He had 14 tackles, 7 solos. Indiana goes up 21-7 at this point in the second quarter, but again, the Bulldogs would not go away.
Right, now we're driving the ball here and got a pretty good drive going. This is a third down conversion throw here. Wiley hits Caleb Davis on a little angle route. He's out and then back in, and then, you know, we come back here, and this is really a pretty throw. Here's Tyler McDonald on a little short corner.
You talk about Tyler McDonald, 7 receptions for Tyler, 7 receptions for Caleb Davis.
Had a big day, and then Chris Merrill is trying to stretch the football, trying to get a little bit of extra yardage there. You know, we're in pretty good shape because we're driving it, and we end up turning it over here.
That was on the 18-yard line of Indiana. They come back with a little reverse to Kofi Hughes, and he gets it upfield for a nice game for Indiana.
They saw that our defense was really running around, and I think they ran maybe 4 reverses during this game. That was Leon Smith knocking it back here, and then Dominic Ellis comes up and makes the play. D'Angelo
Roberts on the carry for Indiana. They'd have to settle for a field goal, and the Hoosiers now go up 24-7. South Carolina State would get the football back here in the second half. We'd turn it over on downs, or actually this is further into the first half. Indiana punting the football, and Coach, this was a huge play here that went for naught.
Right, and they call a block in the back here that called us back. And I've had a chance to look at it several times, and it was just a baby brush. I mean, it was really a brush because the guy had run by the ball.
Darius Drummond on that return. Darius had 2 big returns against Bethune-Cookman, but if that score stood up, we're talking 24-14 now heading into the half.
Exactly. It's been a big difference here. But now we do get a drive going here again, and we hit Tyler McDonald on the corner route, but we eventually do get stopped here, and they end up getting the football back here at the very end of the first half.
They eventually would run out the clock, and that would be the way the first half would end on a Saturday. This sack by Lataris Douglas. Indiana leading South Carolina State at the half, 24-7. That is your State Farm first half highlights. We will take a time out here on the Buddy Pough Show, and we will tell you, of course, the injury situation coming up with your Palmetto Health Injury Report on this edition of the Buddy Pough Show. All right, the Palmetto Health Injury Report, and Terrell Fitz getting hurt, Coach. That happened on Saturday. And Devin Flowers, Ashton Jordan up there again as well.
Yeah, all 3 of these guys have got some pretty good little deals. Terrell Fitz is probably going to be out for a little while with his elbow. It was dislocated, and Dr. Mazowitz put it back in there on the sideline, but I'm sure that was not pretty. And
ouch.
Ashton Jordan had a shoulder separation. Devin had a back. Now,
Yari King did not make the trip again.
Right, and we need Yari to get back now because he's had a concussion now for about 2 weeks, and we're thinking that maybe he's should be close to being back maybe this coming week.
All right, with that is our Palmetto Health Injury Report. We'll take a time out. It's halftime here on the Buddy Pough Show. South Carolina State trailing Indiana 24-7. We'll have the exciting second half highlights when we come back on this edition.